To succeed as a professional trader, the fact is you need resources, and you need a lot of them. Now, why do I specifically want to talk about costs? Well, because they matter a lot in the early stages of your career. For most traders that are on these calls, that listen to these webinars, you are in the early stages of your career. You're wanting to break through to profitability. You're wanting to go on and make a career for yourself. Okay, so these costs matter to you, and that's why we have to discuss them. We have to be honest about them. But more importantly, we have to understand them. Okay, cost is not just paying out money. Of course, that's how we see a cost, and that's how we experience a cost, but there's more to it. And hopefully through this topic one, you'll come to understand exactly what the different types of costs are, how they impact you, but most importantly, what will happen to those costs as you progress in your career. That's the key takeaway from this topic one. Now, very important, because these costs are so high in the early stages of your career, for most of you, these costs can actually be the differentiation between whether you make it or not. Okay, and that's why we have to get a handle on them. Now, what I want you to understand today is explained in the simple visual you can see in front of you. On the x-axis, okay, you've got your trading experience. Okay, think of it as time, think of it as trading experience, think of it as, all that time you spend in your journals thinking about opportunities. That is trading experience. Okay, and on the y-axis, we've got the total cost of trading. Now, I don't want you to just think of cost as money going out for my commissions or money going out for my data fees. It's all costs. And I'm going to go through some of the more abstract costs tonight because they probably costs you haven't thought of. Things like the cost of time, things like the opportunity cost of doing another job, things like the opportunity cost of giving up on, a different career path. We can see at the start of your career, your costs are very, very high. Think of what you pay for your charting. Think of your execution platforms. Think of all those commissions going to your brokerages. Think about those news terminals like Bloomberg's and Icons going out. Think about the Squawk services you pay for. Think about your membership you pay every month to Tradelo. All of these are costs, and they all add up. And when you total them together, they make up a significant outgoing every single month. Okay, in absolute terms, it's a lot of money. Now, the difficulty so many traders face is that early in their career, most traders have got a small trading account. Let's use $10,000 as the hypothetical. Now, they could generate a really significant return, like $1,500 on. That's really good trading. But the reality is, when you add up all of those costs, the ones I just explained, they add up to, for example, something like $1,000, which means you make 1,500, 1,000 goes out, you're left with 500. That's not enough left for account growth. That's not even enough left for a salary. Okay, this is a truly difficult concept to conceptualize. Okay, how do you kind of make this money but pay it all away? You do all the work, you take all the risks, you have all the stress, and you get nothing. Okay, it's really difficult early in your career to conceptualize this. And I promise you, you're not the only one that has experienced this. Okay, I experienced this a number of times in my career. Okay, and our costs were substantially higher than what they are today. And the point of this topic is I'm going to get you to start not thinking about the cost, not thinking about, oh, it's money going out again. Oh, my broker's making money. Oh, Tradelo's making money. I'm not going to get you to think about it in that way. I'm going to get you to think about it in three different ways. Costs that you can fight over and you can haggle over and that you want to get down. Costs that are actually investments. And then costs that you just accept as part of doing business. Okay, because when you start to associate costs in these three buckets, you'll know where you want to allocate your energy. And more importantly, you'll stop seeing that money going out every single month as a cost. And instead, you'll start to see it as an investment into something bigger. And that's crucially important. Why? Because remember what I said to you. You are going to have to accept these costs in the beginning of your career, whether you like it or not. Okay, so you can choose. You either let it impact you, you either let it affect you, or you accept it and you focus your energy on becoming more experienced, becoming more profitable, at which points these costs almost become negligible. They become not important. You don't even think about them anymore. Okay, now, let's get back to the curve. So in the early part of your career, what happens is these costs increase. Okay, why? Well, simply put, Yes, you have your fixed outgoings every single month, but guess what? The more time you are giving to trading, the more opportunity cost you are foregoing in another career. Okay, think about it. Most people should be in their prime earning years between 30 and 40. That's where you make your money. That's where you build your savings, your deposits, you start a family. Life is good. So if you're trading in your 30s to 40s, or you're starting trading in your 30s to 40s, the reality is there is an opportunity cost. Okay, and there's a number of opportunity costs. I'm not going to go through them now. We'll go through on the next couple of slides. But the point is early on, guess what? Your total cost of trading increases. Okay? Now, at a specific point in your journey, as you're becoming more experienced, as you're adopting more size, as you're learning how to position size correctly and using risk management effectively, those up days start to increase. Okay. So as a proportion of how much money you're making every month, all of a sudden, your total cost of trading almost falls off a cliff. Okay. It almost becomes non-important. And guess what? It actually goes negative. And yes, I'm saying negative. Your costs become negative. Why? And a lot of you going, how can costs go negative? Does that mean I'm going to receive money for using applications? No. Remember what I said. Costs are not just what you pay away. Costs are what you're investing in. In other words, and I'll use this example quite a few times today. Earlier in my career, and I didn't understand this, and this is kind of why this topic is so important to me. I remember a trader came to me. This was 2014, 2015. And he said to me, look, we need to get a Bloomberg. I said to him, no ways, mate. Bloomberg's like 25 grand. I mean, that's, it's like 1,000, 200,000, dollars a month. How can I absorb that? My account is like, 50K. How am I going to absorb that every single month? That's like a wage. And so I was like, no, I'm out. There's no ways I can afford it. The reality is, and I'll never forget what he said to me. He said to me, yes, but if you have Bloomberg and you trade just one comment over a year and you make 20K, 30K on that comment, you've paid for the tool for the entire year. And that's what an investment is. It's something you pay for, you invest into it because it will generate you more value than it costs you. And that's precisely how your trading costs go negative, is that you invest in things that actually add value. They enable you to be profitable. They enable you to generate alpha. That's what negative costs is all about. And we'll talk about some of those negative costs in a moment, because it's important you understand which ones are negative costs and why you have to invest them. It's not about because I told you. It's because I made that mistake so early on in my career. And I kid you not, I threw away hundreds of thousands of dollars as a result of it. And eventually, I understood this. And as a result, now it's a no-brainer to have Bloomberg. Okay, you don't even consider it. It's part of your investments. Now, what I want you to take away from this graphic, okay, the key message I want you to look at is that professional trading has a very, very expensive high barrier to entry. Okay, I get that. I was there. I started in 2011, just like most of you. Okay, there is no cheap way to become a professional trader. It doesn't matter how many ways you want to cut it. It doesn't matter how many gurus you listen to. It doesn't matter how many signal services you follow. There will never be a cheap way to learn to trade. That's a fact. You can accept it or you can fight it, but it's a fact. So what you have to accept today is that there's this high sunk cost that you're going to have to absorb early on in your career. But more importantly, what you must understand is that those sunk costs will turn negative. Okay? And equally, don't forget these costs that you're paying away, whether that's for your front ends, for your charting platforms, for your Tradelo subscriptions, you are investing in something that is going to generate you a significant value down the line. And that's important. Now, let's move on. So there's a couple of costs I want to discuss, 5 in particular. I'm not going to talk about costs in the way you think about it. Like, hey, I must pay $100 a month for my charting software. No, we're not going to talk about that. We're not going to talk about costs like that. There's some costs I want to bring to your attention so you're aware of them. You're aware of the implications, and you can mentally just understand them, because this is the key. Okay, as a trader, early in my career, I used to hate it every single month. Start of the month. Oh God, start of the month. There goes my desk fee of $1,400. Oh, there goes the market delta fee of $750. Oh, yeah. Hey, I took a draw. There goes the brokerage's commissions. Oh, hey, wait, there's all those variable costs going on as well. And it felt like, well, I made $5,000. In my bank account, I get 1.5. Then the tax man takes his share, and I'm like, excellent. So I make 5K, I get 1K. That sounds like a pretty rubbish deal to me. Okay. And that's what it was like for me starting as a trader. That's what it was like for every trader starting. Okay. But what you have to come to understand is that those costs are almost part of the journey. Okay. They are part of the process of becoming a trader. Again, it's important you understand and differentiate between the costs, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the opportunity costs you can expect to face, the cost of taking risk. Okay, this is important, particularly from a psychological perspective. The cost of commissions, okay, the cost of brokerage and investment costs. These are the 5 costs I want to cover with you now. Let's begin and talk about opportunity costs. Okay, like I said in the beginning, opportunity costs, lost income. All right, you're going to become a trader. Guess what? Bye-bye goes your salary. You don't get that monthly salary anymore. Okay, whether you work, whether you don't work, you get nothing. You don't make any money, you get nothing. That's how it works. Okay, the benefits and the perks. It was great working for someone. You got health insurance. They contributed to your pension. When people were having days off, they got paid. Okay, you get none of that now. It all goes away. Bye-bye. Okay, skill development. Right now, yeah, sure, as a trader, you're going to learn certain trading skills, but the reality is um, you're going to miss out on what society deems as real skills, okay? The skills that people get paid money for. You're going to miss out on those skills. Okay, if you're spending 10 hours a day learning and observing markets and price action, right, those aren't skills that society necessarily pays money for. Okay, networking opportunities, and this is a massive one. Right, traditional jobs, you build network, you build, peers, mentors, all these sorts of things, people you can lean on at some point in the future. You can kind of network with them. That all goes out the door. Okay, and most importantly, the opportunity cost of security. And this is a crucial one, particularly as you get older. Okay? You want that sense of security, that sense of, well, hey, $5,000's coming into my bank, therefore I can afford the mortgage every month. My kids can afford food, they can afford school, right? Bye-bye goes the security, it's gone. Again, most people don't think about opportunity costs. They just come into trading going, oh, there's so much profit to be made. It's, they don't factor in that you're giving up so much in terms of opportunity cost. Okay, that's the first cost I want you to think about. The next cost I want you to think about is the cost of risk. Okay, what do I mean by this? This is the acceptance that you have to be willing to lose money to make money. Okay, most traders don't see it this way. Most traders see it as, well, I come into trading with 10 grand. If I trade, it'll go to 20 grand. The reality is you have to think of it more along the lines of, well, I could lose the 10 grand, but I could make the 10 grand. Okay, when you start to frame it in that sense, you'll start to see things, or you'll start to accept that trading is simply a game of, I've got to be willing to put $500 down in order to make $500. One thing that I really, really like about the Tradelo application, I'll show you this in the demonstration a little bit later on, is when you allocate risk into the market. Okay, so when I take a trade, when I'm long the market or I'm short the market, ultimately you can see how that it says allocated risk. Okay, and how you have to think about this is it's gone. It's kind of like you took money, you went to a wholesaler, you bought a whole bunch of things from him, you now take it back to your shop, and you have to wait. And either someone's going to come and buy it from you for a profit, or you're going to have to sell it at a cost price in which you take a scratch, or you're going to have to sell it at a loss. Okay, it's no different. That money has to go out the door in hope that I can turn a profit. But it's not a case of you just turn a profit. And too many traders think you just turn a profit. It doesn't work that way. So there's never this acceptance that, you know what, I could lose this 937. Okay. And yes, it will suck if I lose it. But the reality is I'm willing to risk that because that enables me to make 1,000. Okay. That is the game of trading. There is a cost of risk. Okay, moreover, and this is one of the things I really like about the application, not only can I see my total allocated risk, which is my worst case scenario, absolute worst case, this is what I'm going to lose today. The best part about it is I can conceptualize it because suddenly I can see, well, look, I've allocated this, but I've still got all of this left. I can still take $3,600 and put that money to work and try and make more profits. Okay, now when you see, and not enough traders do this, when you physically see the absolute dollar amount in front of your face, what it allows you to do is it allows you to compartmentalize things. In other words, if I have $100,000 and right now I'm taking a risk that could cost me $500, the psychology behind losing that $500 is almost not even worth talking about. In other words, sure, $500 is $500. I mean, no one's just going to go and take a match and burn it. But the reality is that it's not significant relative to what my pot size is. So I'm not afraid to lose it. I accept that losing it is part of the process of me being able to make $1,000. Okay. And that's this acceptance concept you have got to come to terms with. If you're risking your own money, you have to accept that that money is at risk. And it's highly likely that you are going to have drawdowns. And for some of you, you are going to lose it all. That's part of the game of trading. Let's talk about the cost of commissions. This is a very, very interesting one, a very important one, and one you probably all understand to a degree because you pay away your commissions to your brokerage every single month. Okay, now, commissions are one of the most direct costs that you'll face. They're one of the ones you think about more than anything else because every day when you get your statement, you see them, okay? And they significantly impact overall profitability, okay? Especially if you're a high frequency trader or you trade a lot, okay? So, or you trade with significant volumes. Now, if you see the examples, I've given you two examples here, and this is going to illustrate how important the cost of commissions is, okay, and why you have to get a control on it. In the first example, what I've used is the example of if you enter a one lot in the full ES contract and you make 10 ticks, okay, you will effectively have $125 of profit. Now, you will pay, and obviously I've taken these commissions from one of the biggest futures retail brokerages. You will pay on that $125, you'll pay $3.80, which is roughly 3%. Now, if you're trading micro lots, the same thing, you're going to make $12.50. The commission is $1. You're paying away 8%. Okay, so for every 10 ticks you make in the market, you're paying away 8% of that. Okay, that's significant. You're paying away 8% of your upside. Now, if you think about it, if you just take a typical trader and you look at how many times we win versus how many times we lose, the reality is that there's a lot of losing days as well. Now, if you're paying away 8% on your winnings and you're paying away 8% on your losings, okay, it's significant and it adds up over time, right? It's almost as if most of your money is going away to the brokerage. Now, this is the first one to look at. Now, the second one is that when you have a one lot with 5 ticks, and this is going to highlight something very, very crucial. So we take the same example, except this time we're going to have a 5-tick winner versus a 10-tick winner. Now, in this instance, we have $62.50 of profit. And this time, we're paying away 6% of our P&L in commissions. And on micros, we're paying away 16% of our profits in commissions. Okay, sorry, this should say 5 ticks. Now, straight away, you should all be going, oh, wow, actually, that means it makes absolutely 0 sense for me to be scalping if I'm trading micros. And that's kind of a lead on to the second topic tonight, which is all about scalping, which is why I really wanted to kind of follow through with this, because you'll start to see that scalping is not a strategy to adopt when trading micros, even though it might feel like a good strategy. When you do some basic math, you will see that it's not a strategy that's going to generate you any return in the long run. Okay, so go away and have a think about particularly your commissions tonight. Think about what your commission structure looks like and how much you're actually paying away as a percentage. Okay, now often there's a lot of pushback. A lot of traders say, yes, but you know, I just take 20 and 30 and 40 tick winners and 5-to-1 RRs. Reality is that if you look at your average size winner, and this is why I use 10 ticks, okay, most traders' average size winners are not far off. And when I say average, I mean if you take all your winning trades and you look at the average winner, they're not far off from 10 to 20 to 30 ticks. Okay, so in other words, a lot of your upside is going to be paid away to commissions. Okay, now, very, very important, like I said to you, there's a ratio here that you need to understand. Commissions matter a lot more the more frequently you're trading, obviously. Okay, but if you're taking small risk reward trades, in other words, you're not taking big RR trades, the reality is that is not a feasible strategy in the long run, particularly for micro lots. Okay, you will pay away most of your profits in commissions. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the cost of brokerage. Again, not something many would have been exposed to, but it's probably because you're not aware of it. Okay, and this is something, again, that I've personally dealt with a number of Tradelo traders. I constantly have to sort of not mentor them, but just guide them on this. Okay, and the way to think about cost of brokerage, okay, is as follows. If I asked all of you, and this is what I want to, how I'm going to frame it, what I want you to think about. Okay, if I asked all of you, you had two choices between a brokerage model. Choice number one, you get to keep 100% of your profit. Any profit you make is yours. Under this model, okay, you're going to pay retail commissions, and I will give you 4 times leverage. Okay, in other words, during the day, all you have to do is maintain the 1/4 of the exchange margin requirement. So I'll give you 4 times leverage. Okay, that's option number one, and I'll give you retail commissions. Okay, for retail commissions, that's effectively what I showed you. $1 on the micro and $3.80 on the full contracts. Okay, option number two, you keep 90% of your profits. But now I'm going to give you professional commissions, okay? And I'm going to give you 10 to 20 times leverage, depending on how long you've been with me, how many years of service you've been with me, etc., etc. Okay? Now, instinctively, when I have this conversation with traders, the first thing they say, and again, obviously, I appreciate, obviously, all of you will have an answer to this, but all of them will say, no way, Jose, I ain't giving away 10% of my profits. That's crazy. And I get why. Okay, I fully understand it. Why would you give away 10% of your upside? That makes no sense. But it doesn't make sense because you don't understand the other model, because you've never been exposed to it. Okay. The sort of short answer is you should never be taking the retail brokerage model if you don't have to. Okay. You should always be taking the professional model. And there's a very good reason for it. Okay. Number one, like I said, when it comes to commissions, for most traders, they'll form the most significant cost you'll ever absorb, okay? Particularly if, like I said, your average win is between 10 to 20 ticks, you are going to pay away a significant amount of money away in brokerage, okay? So if that's your primary cost, if that's your number one cost, then that is where you need to find a solution. And the retail brokerage is not that solution, okay? To give you an idea, the commissions, in other words, if I show you on a 360 and E-mini S&P round trip fee, you will pay around 160 for a professional model. Okay, think about that. For every one lot I do, I save $2. Okay, over time, over a year, you do 20, 30, 40,000 round trips. You can do the math, and you'll see why instinctively it's a no-brainer to give away the 10%. The second reason you give away the 10% is because of leverage. There will be moments in a year where I do not want to be constrained. I do not want my hands tied because the retail brokerage says, well, look, I can only give you 4 times the margin requirement. Okay. I need someone to say, I will be willing to give you the 20 times margin requirement. And I need that firepower because in those events where I've got a near certain bet in terms of price direction, I want to be able to capitalize on it. Okay. And that is why professional traders use professional brokerages and they pay away their 10%. You have to see the 10% as I'm paying for someone to give me ultimately the kind of exposure and low cost to trading that is necessary as a professional trader. Okay. So just make sure you're aware of the cost of brokerage. There are different brokerage models out there. And again, like I always say to the Tradelo traders, if you're unsure, you can message me on Discord and we can discuss about it because every trader has different circumstances and there's a very specific point in your career where you have got to transition because if you don't, there's only one person that's winning in that situation. And I promise you, it's not you. It is your brokerage. Okay, so that's the cost of brokerage. Now, the next cost is this idea of investment costs. Okay, now, the way to think about this. Yes, when you pay your $90 a month for your Tradelo subscription. I get it's coming out of your bank account. Okay, I get that a normal human being has got a budget in an Excel sheet and they see money going out and they see it as a cost. But the reality is it's not a cost, it's an investment. Okay. When you're paying for education, it might feel like a cost, but it's an investment. When you're paying for Tradelo software, it might feel like it's a cost, but it's an investment. Why? These things enable you. Okay. In other words, without them, you cannot be profitable. And moreover, the best way to distinguish between a cost and an investment is that an investment, we all know the definition of investment. An investment is where you put money down. So you put the money down and over time it compounds and generates a return. Okay. It has a positive, well, I don't want to say it has a positive expected return. We invest in order to have a positive expected return. Okay. In some instances, of course, it can have a negative return, but that's the definition of an investment. We put our money down because we think it will grow over time. Now, it's no different when it comes to investing in certain products. Okay. Like I said, let me use the example of the Tradelo application. Okay. When I started using this application, I started using it because there were specific controlled losses that I was absorbing very often. And one of them was where I would significantly over risk. In other words, there was times where heat of the moment, I would go from a normal clip to, 8, 9, 10 times what was normal. And the result was I'd have these really big drawdown days, like just 2, 3 times stop out days, just unnecessary, simply because I got sucked into overconfidence buy. So, hey, the market's breaking out. Oh, I'm going to buy more. Oh, I'm going to buy more. Oh, where's all my money gone? Okay, that's sort of, you get sucked into the whole gambling of it. Okay, I'm also human, and I got sucked into it, and I got so irritated and frustrated by taking these costs over and over and over again that I needed a solution. Okay, I needed something to say to me, well, look, what's normal is 5. When you are confident, fine, use 8, but don't use 80 because that's stupid. And just the result of implementing something that says use 8 instead of 5 meant that instead of binning, and this was a cost I kept every year, instead of binning $48,000 a year from things like over risking, from moving stops around, from under risking, from over trading, all of a sudden, that cost is now under $10,000 a year. In other words, the net result is that because I've implemented a piece of software, I now save $38,000. And yes, of course, I have to pay every single month for a piece of software. But what am I saving? What's the value that that software is generating for me? Okay, I'm paying away $1,000 a year to save myself $38,000 a year. It's an absolute no-brainer. Okay, another example I see. And so many traders make the mistake because I made it. Traders refuse to pay for a news terminal. Like I said, just one comment, just one, oh, Fed's pal says they're not going to hike interest rates this year, or sorry, they're not going to cut interest rates this year. Just one comment that you sat there for, that you suddenly go, well, hang on a sec. Wow, that puts 10-year back at, 475, 5%. That means I can take, I can take a point out of the 10-year. Just that one comment, you pay for that news terminal for the entire year in one day. That is a valuable investment into your trading. Another example is investing in quality education. Okay. For example, investing in taking a central bank course. Okay. Now, most traders, when I started trading, by the way, no one knew anything about the Fed. No one knew anything about central banking. Okay. No one. The first time, and there's a good reason, right? Central banks didn't do anything in 2011. Well, 2011, 12, obviously there was QE1, 2, etc., etc. But from 2014 to 2018, central banks were all at 0 interest rates. They did nothing. The meetings were a waste of time, so no one bothered learning about them. But guess what? When 2019 came and the Powell pivot came, and 2020 came and COVID came and central banks, fired the bazookas, all that years of learning, all that investment into educating yourself about central banks paid off massively. I'm talking about traders having career best days because they'd invested in central bank courses. Okay, and this is what I'm talking about. Yes, you can see it as a cost. Yes, you can see it as, well, you know what, it cost me $500 to learn about the Fed. But the way I see it is, you will make close to $1 million over the life of your career, and all it cost you was $500 and a bit of time. That is an investment, not a cost. Now, it's important to define what costs are investments, okay, because they define significant value for you. Equally, it's important to define which costs are sunk costs, because guess what? You simply have to pay away those costs, okay? And this is kind of where I want to summarize. There are some costs that, guess what? You have to just pay. For example, if you're a futures trader, you're going to have to pay the CME exchange fees, whether you like it or not. And guess what? They're going to increase those fees year over year. Now, if you give any thought to that or any energy to that, you're just simply wasting a thought. It's pointless. They are sunk costs. They are part of the process of being a trader. Okay? There are then some costs that you fight for, i.e., your brokerage. Those are the costs you have to become educated on. Why? Because they are so significant to every trader, including myself. So those are the costs you spend time on. Those are the costs where you negotiate with your brokerage. Those are the costs you spend time trying to understand what is the best solution for you. Finally, there are the costs that are investments. And those are the ones that derive value for you. They generate significant upside return over time for you. And those costs, you have to make sure you have them. Don't think a second about them. Invest in them because they are going to generate you the upside returns that are necessary for trading.